Hello everyone, it's Paul Tilley and welcome back to Unit 5, Managing Retail Business and Community Customers. Today we're looking at Part 2, which deals with community and how community has been an important part, or building community has become an important part of the online environment. So what we're talking about really here is the idea of people getting together on the internet in order to learn about products, find out about products, use products, and talk about it with each other. So there's a back and forth amongst the members there. In this particular part, we're going to describe different types of social networks and online communities and their business models. We're going to describe the major types of things like auctions out there that are available in terms of online communities. And we're going to describe the major types of internet portals and their business models. So first we look at the average time spent per day. And you'll notice that as time has gone by, people are spending more and more time online. So in 2023, for example, 331 minutes a day will be spent. So that's a good chunk of time, 5 hours online. And traditional, on the other hand, is declining. And we look at people TV watching or looking at magazines and the like, looking at newspapers, that is declining. So we see that the move is more towards the online environment. So what are we talking about with regards to online content? So no other sector in North American economy has been challenged so much by the internet and the web than what we call content industries. The online content industry are really organized into two major broad categories. First, there's the print industry, which is really newspapers, magazines, and books. And second is the entertainment industry, which includes things like televisions, movies, music, including radio station, traditional radio, and games. And you can see here, that traditional print industries have really moved online. Globe and Mail's presence online, Maclean's Magazine's presence online, and Audible, which is a website that features online books. We're also looking at the entertainment industry, and I have here, CBC has put a lot of its efforts into developing online on-demand content. They've started the online portal Gym, and you can see that the CBC Gym contains a lot of TV shows and stuff that you see on traditional television, but you can access it when you want. We also see online movies, and movies are being broadcast in the traditional sense in movie theaters and the like, but a lot of this is switched online now. Netflix is the place to go watch a movie. And on top of that, there's also usually, most times for large movies, there's a website that goes with the movie, such as the movie Don't Look Up that was recently released. Gaming has really gone online. It used to be traditionally that you go buy a cartridge and you put it in the gaming console and you play it on your television. Now gaming has really evolved. Long gone the console. Now all of it is online. You can connect with people from all over the world. So again, it's the same thing, but it's being delivered in a whole new way using online media. Another issue that we face here, and this poses some ethical challenges too, is media convergence. And all that means is that media platforms are coming together under one owner. So the technology is bringing things together. So this is really known as technological convergence, and it refers to the development of hybrid devices that can combine the functionality of computers and television effectively. So books, newspapers, television, radio, and stereo equipment now is all on your Mac. You can do all of that, And in terms of the content convergence too, is that the content tends to flow over various platforms. So not only is it in print, it's also available digitally, and so on. So, and really the design and production and the distribution of it has all moved online now. We also think about the industry, and the industry is really converging. It refers to really the mergers that are existing. And here I have a piece from 2001. And this is when CTV and the Globe joined together. The beginnings of media convergence. And the issues that were discussed here in 2001 are very much true today. So just take a watch of this.
The CRTC, Canada's broadcast regulator today, one involving those new media conglomerates, Bell Globe Media, which owns CTV, and CanWest Global. It spells out how the television companies will have to operate in the new world of media convergence. Here are a few of the details. First off, both CTV and Global receive the maximum license renewal of 7 years. In return, they'll be required to keep on airing Canadian programming at least 8 hours every week during peak times. But the most controversial conditions have to do with the broadcasters' newsrooms and their plan to merge them with their newly acquired newspaper holdings. Sasha Petrosic is our reporter on the story. He joins us now. Sasha.
Peter, today the CRTC tried to impose some rules on a media landscape that's changed faster and more dramatically than the federal regulator ever imagined. Media convergence. It's already as close as your TV. Earlier this week, CTV's national newscast led with this story.
Members of the Church of God say they will never stop disciplining their children this way.
If you watched, you might have noticed the reporter.
Samantha Shadsky, CTV News.
She was also the one who wrote the same story for the front page of the Globe and Mail the next day, quoting the same people. The two news organizations used to be competitors. Now they're part of the same Bell Globe Media family. There's even a CTV bureau in a corner of the Globe's Toronto newsroom. So long as some other conditions are met, the CRTC now says it can stay there. CTV declined to be interviewed by the CBC today, but on its own newscast, executives said the approach allows them to do more with the same resources.
That's where I think it's really important to get journalists working together, cooperating, doing more original reporting.
The CRTC's conditions aren't as tough as the ones it imposed last month on another media empire, Quebecor. In that case, the commission ruled managers and newsrooms of the TVA network it owns have to be completely separate from those of its newspapers. In this ruling, Bell Globe Media simply has to keep TV and newspaper management separate. Newsrooms can merge. The same for CanWest Global and its media empire. That prompted a debate all over the airwaves. Robert Cribb with the Canadian Association of Journalists doesn't like the implications.
Fewer journalists, less content, more superficial content. And at the end of the day, I mean, it challenges this whole notion of diversity upon which democracy is founded.
The critics of this are without merit, frankly.
Both networks dismiss those who worry convergence means fewer voices and issues will be heard.
The consumer will not tolerate identical product or identical points of view. The consumer is sophisticated, judicious, and there's lots of choice out there already.
Besides, the CRTC says it's a concession the broadcasting industry needs.
For Canada to position itself in the communication industry to create strong, solid players in that world marketplace. And this is part of that strategy. Take two.
But experts say the real reason is the CTV and global empires have become just too big for the CRTC to control.
I mean, once you've allowed these mergers to happen, the rest of this makes a measure of sense. The question now is, could they have done anything different having allowed that? And the answer is, I don't think they could have.
In fact, experts say it's going to be harder and harder for anyone in Ottawa to impose these rules. And they say that given that the industry and the technology has changed so much, it has really outgrown the CRTC. Peter.
Sasha, we should mention that the CRTC did impose a safeguard of sorts on the networks, which could cost them a lot of money.
It could. It has imposed a condition of license, which means that they'll have to pay $1 million a year each, that's CTV and Global, to set up a committee that will oversee the networks, that will oversee convergence, and it may even act as a bit of an ombudsman in the sense that people can complain to this committee if they think something's going wrong.
All right, Sasha, thanks very much. Sasha Petrosic reporting to us tonight from our bureau on Parliament Hill.
We really need to think about how the media has really changed over the course of time. This report is from the CBC archives. It's 20 years ago, but it really sparked the beginning of the end of the standalone media. We see companies coming together. So now, for example, CTV is part of Bell, and Globe Mail is part of Bell. TSN, part of Bell, so it's all really one company. So changing technology has really squeezed the media landscape, and again, it's all in the interest of profits and all in the interest of being able to cut costs. The online newspaper industry has probably been most affected by this. If we think of the traditional newspaper, it has really died, particularly in rural parts of Canada. So the decline in newspapers and the revenues that go with them, newspapers made their money on advertising revenues. Now advertising all is shifted online, so as a result, newspapers have really lost a lot of their value. And this has resulted in a lot of newspapers disappearing. And it's also meant that newspapers have really been forced to get more online. If you look at rural Newfoundland and Labrador, for example, there used to be a series of newspapers that were across the province that were originally Robinson Blackmore and then Saltwater owned it most recently. They've all been shut down now because realistically people were not buying the paper. So local journalism has really, really suffered. About 2,200 local print newspapers existed in 2005, and really that number has dropped significantly since then. And the jobs for journalists, the ability to get local news, all of these things have really suffered in that traditional medium. And really, we have not seen electronic medium come in and replace local. The online entertainment industry is another industry that's severely impacted, but again, from a positive perspective, in terms of the way things do things. It used to be that movies had to come out to the theater. Now, particularly after having gone through COVID, usually they're released directly to Netflix. So several forces at work. Mobile devices. You can watch a movie on your phone, and these mobile devices can be accessed anywhere. Social networks are spurring delivery of entertainment content to your desktop. We see, ads in Facebook or videos on Facebook. The growth of broadband has made it possible to push all that content through the wire. We can actually get a high-speed internet, which allows us to download movies, and it's really taken cable TV and pushed it aside. And radio stations, they're the next target. You think about streaming media now. How many of us have got some form of streaming media, streaming music, or streaming radio, or streaming video on our devices? Most of us do. And we can see, that there have been some identified trends. This 2021 article identified 7 major things that has really changed in the Canadian entertainment industry. Home entertainment, the way we watch home entertainment has changed. Films, how they're released has changed. Online gaming, we're talking about that here. Online gaming, as I say, has moved to an online environment. This includes video games as well as online lotteries and things like that. For example, you can go do that now. Esports, again, betting on sports and connectivity to sports, a lot of it's online. Traditional TV has even changed. If you look at traditional TV, as I say, that line between your computer and your television now has been crossed, where you can watch TV on your television. And in fact, a lot of the stuff that's on TV references the website. And as I say, music is a big change-up item. The online gaming industry, particularly with regards to money gaming, that is going off and spending money on various casinos, has gone online. Smartphones have enabled that. And rapid growth in mobile gaming has really, really changed the gaming industry. You look at Atlantic Lottery, for example, one of the things, if you go to their website now, what they want to focus on is the fact that you can play online. We also have all these social networks out there, and you think about them, generally we're using them every single day. And really, what is a social network? It really involves a group of people sharing some social interaction and they have some common interests or ties or common members, and they can share over a period of time. So a social network is really hinged on us all being connected online, and that we can share things online. If you look at the top social media sites, Facebook is by far and away the largest, with about 55% market share in Canada, followed by Pinterest, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Reddit, Tumblr, and a very small segment for everything else. So really, there are some very large players, of which Facebook is a behemoth. Well, if we think about analyzing these social networks in terms of the business models, what is it they do? Well, first of all, they provide general communities, so members can interact with a general audience. And they also provide something called practice networks, where you can actually go and ask questions. You can go to YouTube and find out how to fix your sink or stuff like that. This is an ability for people to get together, particularly in discussion groups, and to figure out, what's the best way to do things. And you could think about that for any number of things, including things like this course. We have interest-based communities, and really the web is really, and these organizations that create these websites, Facebook, classic example, are geared up to foster interest-based communities. If you like something on Facebook, you will see more of it. If you don't like it, you'll see less of it. So it's very much set up to figure out what your interests are and feed you more of that content. We also have something called affinity communities, and there members can participate in focused discussions with others that share the same affinity. So you can subscribe, for example, to these groups, and there are lots of examples of that for community newspapers. You can get access to the newspaper, or get access to some organization that you're a member of, and maybe there's a membership fee or these sorts of things. And we also have something called sponsored communities, where members can participate in these communities created by government and nonprofit agencies that will allow them to allow the governments and these agencies to get information to people, receive information from people. And we see a lot of these cropping up, for example, in St. John's or in larger centers. We often have municipal-based websites that allow people to input into various items with regards to the growth and development of their community. In this unit, we also look at online auctions, and online auctions are really a way of selling things online, where usually the highest bidder, or a bidder, can bid on things. So there's a competition for the product, and the highest bidder would normally win. And these auctions are normally broken into two major types. They're consumer-based ones or business-based ones. And we have some terminology for consumer, consumer-to-consumer sites or business-to-consumer sites. Consumer-to-consumers are usually I'm selling something and you want to buy something and you can bid on it. And this is very much like we see, for example, on eBay. So I'll just show you here. eBay allows us to put products up and people can buy them, and we can set up an auction for them so the highest bidder will get it. But these sites also exist in the commercial world. So business to business sites would have online bidding sites for contracts, such as MERCS, which is the federal government of Canada's site that allows companies to bid on federal government projects. There are a lot of benefits, but some costs to online auctions. We think about liquidity, price discovery, price transparency, market efficiency, lower transaction cost, bringing consumers together, a lot of networking abilities. All of these things are really what are the big sales features for auctions. Everybody can get involved, and the lowest price or the best price for either the consumer or the seller will emerge. However, there's some costs too. We think about the fact that you don't buy it right away because you're waiting for the price to be just right. Someone's got to keep checking it, the monitoring cost. The equipment cost, you've got to have the technology to do that. There's some issues too with regards to trust, and this is a big one. Will I lose my money? Will I get my product? And fulfillment costs, actually shipping the product back and forth. So auction sites are all about reducing those risks and maximizing the benefits. There are different types of auctions. Usually we think of a typical auction would be something called an English auction, where a single item is up for sale from a single seller, and a bunch of people bid on it, and the highest price wins. Okay, but we also have Dutch auctions, and So a Dutch auction is a sort of a reverse auction where we start at a high price and work our way down to someone actually saying, okay, I'll pay that price. Okay, so we work our way down, and that will be the price that everyone will pay. Effectively, there is a minimum price that is set by the seller. So you got kind of a start high, work our way down, and when everyone says, I'll pay that, that's the price that everyone pays. And we also have a name your price auction, which is buyers specify a price that they're willing to pay for an item and multiple sellers bid for that business. We also have e-commerce portals, and e-commerce portals are really gateway websites. These sites feature links to other websites. And really there are a bunch of major types. There's enterprise portals, which are really commercial based, that allow you to find different companies, for example, or different organizations of a same theme. So, for example, a church would list all of its individual church buildings in a given location. Okay, we have general purpose portals, and general purpose portals are all around. Yahoo is an example of that. For example, you go to Yahoo and they have a bunch of links there to various things such as news and email and the like. And we have vertical market portals, and they attempt to attract a very focused group of customers with some particular narrow point of interest.